Welcome to the Love Pod, where inspiration, vision, and real connection come alive. Wherever you are, you belong here.
Welcome to the Love Pod, everyone. I'm so thrilled to invite everyone here. We have a wonderful special guest today. Jacquie BIRD is joining us from Jersey City in New Jersey, and we just had a wonderful little moment to get to know her a little bit. And I'm just thrilled. We've been, welcoming so many wonderful healers who are, focused in different areas of life and just this it's really wonderful meeting someone who is just so tuned in to sound and movement. She's joining us, as a wellness guide whose life journey, spans Broadway performances, global choreography, sound healing, meditation music, mindfulness teaching, and handcrafted wellness creation. So we're really excited to join Jacquie, who is also an author and wrote 28 Days Daily Thoughts and Mantras for Mindfulness. And she's the creator of Stress Busters, guided meditation, and the heart behind the handmade wellness brand Modal Visions. So she's also, I mean, you're so multifaceted, Jacquie. I'd love to just welcome you and invite you to share more about what your mission is, and just welcome to the Love Pod.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. It's awesome.
I always love having an opportunity to talk about what it is that I do. And, having been lost for a long time in my life and searching and in a lot of pain and anger and just not enjoying this ride,
Mm,
I started to dig deeper to figure out how I could find peace, how I
mm,
could create peace. I didn't know I could create it. It's just something you search for, but it's something you really have to create. And it took some journeying and reading and observing other people and observing myself to start to figure out, ah, this piece fits, this piece
mm,
fits. And, with each book I would read, like Seth Speaks and Abraham Hicks
mm,
and all those kinds of books, they would give pieces of the puzzle, Eckhart Tolle, but I still had to find
mm,
the piece that was missing.
mm,
Even though you can hear the teachings and all that stuff, you have to practice them, and you
mhm,
kind of have to figure out what applies to you.
mm,
And when I kind of started to get that, because I think you're always growing, so you don't have it, you're learning. And so I think that as I started to learn and to go, oh wow, this thing used to really upset me, this
mm.
situation used to really have me furious, and now I'm like, that's what they want to do. I'm gonna go over here. Once I started to get more of that happening,
Mm,
I want to share it, because I think that so much of the pain and misery and agony that we suffer on this planet is self-inflicted,
mm.
and we don't want to own up to that.
Yeah, yeah. And that's really the key. I love that you brought that in, like 100% responsibility for our own consciousness and what the
Mm,
meaning we're giving life is really the first step towards mastery, right? Because
yeah.
if you don't claim that, you can never really take a step forward, right?
No. That's so true. I know that I went through a period where I was like running to tarot readers and psychics, and because at that time I was in showbiz. So it was always, am I gonna get work? Is this did I just have my last gig? And I would go, and you know, most of them would tell me what I wanted to hear, but it still wasn't the peace I
Mm,
needed. It still was always running and searching. And
hmm
it's kind of like when you're in that mode, you're not listening.
mm,
And it's really the listening and the observing and the as you said, taking responsibility. And that's when you really can start to figure out more of, this works, this doesn't.
Hmm.
Okay, I just heard myself tell me which way to go. I actually
Yeah.
heard it this time.
Yeah.
And I went and it was great. So you start to have more of, those kinds of things happening in your life. And that's when I think mastery or being more in tuned is what
Hmm.
starts to take place. And then you don't need the psychics and the tarot card readers and because it can become a crutch.
Sure.
And at least for me it had. And it
Yeah.
wasn't taking responsibility. It was just thinking that stuff just happened. And
Yeah.
nah.
No, I love this conversation. It's actually really like it's so, such a foundational piece to the larger journey of mastery, right? Because,
Mm.
when we're always looking externally to ourselves for, those clues, that validation, we're not doing the deeper work of
Yeah.
listening, as you said. And to me, like I love that you teach meditation. I think if I were to summarize meditation in the simplest one word, it's listening. We just get
Oh,
better and better at listening, and we get more and
yeah.
more subtle as the mind sharpens. And just, like one of the profound meditations that Buddha taught is just listening to the sensations of the body without judging them and just developing
Yeah.
equanimity. And that's a powerful tool. I don't think it's the end all be all tool, but I think it's a powerful one to just really sharpen down and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I also love that you talk about that. There is a missing piece that we can't get from anyone else other than from going within, because we are all unique expressions of universal consciousness, right? We're all unique
Yes.
individuations, and I don't think there's any teacher or guru, the ones who shine
Mm-hmm.
light, who can really tell us what our journey is. And I think that's the whole point that makes the life interesting, and also allows us to contribute a unique consciousness to the whole, right? We're not
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be replicas of one another. We're meant
Right.
to offer something of unique perspective. So I love
Absolutely.
that you're bringing that right into the foundation of the
Absolutely.
conversation.
I mean, it's interesting. I have the grace to work with an organization in addition to the other stuff that I do. I choreograph for a group of young singers. I work with
Wonderful.
children from ages 8 to 18.
Love that.
And most of them stay with the organization. So I
Mm,
get to watch them grow from age 8 to 18.
so
And a
beautiful.
lot of them come back after their first year in college. They come back, they're all excited. And being able to observe on the ground what is happening to the younger generations, how much more disconnected we have become from self. And sometimes that is necessary,
Mm,
because sometimes the further separated you get from self, the faster you come back to it.
mm.
Something could happen that pushes you in that direction.
Like Eckhart Tolle, you mentioned, he was suicidal and then had
Absolutely.
an awakening, right? Yeah, I
As
hear that.
was I. I didn't quite have I had a piece of an awakening during that time.
Mm,
Because again, it's all about growth, and you take in what you can at the point that you can take it in.
mm.
So yeah, I think what I was saying about working with the young people and just hearing their views on life and seeing how much we can get disconnected from even joy
Mm,
and just silliness and just not having things be so heavy.
mm.
Being able to observe that on a regular basis, it's a great reminder of we're, I think, supposed to live in joy
Yeah,
and abundance and prosperity, and society teaches us otherwise.
yeah.
And that's also part of the work that I do, and just helping guide people to their sense of self and their sense of truth.
Mm. I first of all, thank you for that service, especially to the young folks out there. And we talk a lot on the show about how children are our greatest teachers and our greatest leaders, right? Because they're embodying what you just said. Like they're courageous. They live with full emotional, openness. They're
Yes, they
they're
do.
they're curious. They're they're learning to do things that we take for granted, and I think we
Yes.
we normalize miracles, like even the ability to walk and utilize this beautiful, intelligent body. And so I love that you are teaching choreography. I think movement and dance especially are so important. I know that
Yeah.
Julia really wanted to be the one to interview you today because she's the dancer between us. I'm more of the visual artist and a
Oh,
writer,
wow.
and she is a wonderful dancer. And we talk a lot about how important, like, enlightenment is an embodiment practice. It's not a mental exercise. It's like
Mhm.
actually increasing our consciousness within the body. So
Absolutely.
I'm really curious to hear from you how you see this journey of these young people, like, growing through this self-expression, right? And dance, and especially having a teacher like you who is so spiritually aware and attuned to higher levels of consciousness. It's wonderful.
Thank you. It's interesting. I mean, I think that first of all, I'm really tough. So some of the kids balk because, I'm very I'm old school. And they joined a choir. So some of them don't want to dance.
Mm,
But what's interesting is to see the child that really can't seemingly grasp movement,
mm,
but from wherever they start to when they get to 18, to see that their awareness and ability has grown to whatever capacity they are capable of is it's magnificent. And a lot of times when I get really excited, I go, "Oh my God, you did that! That was so good!" And they're kind of like, "Huh?
well, they're teenagers,
What?
right? So,
What?" You know? And I mean, it's also interesting, because I keep telling them, I said, "Look, you're here to do what you're doing. You're here to sing. You're here to dance. It's not important whether you sing or dance. It's important that you learn the disciplines and the creativity
mm,
that comes as a result. So
mm.
sometimes, when I lecture them, it's really heavy. Sometimes they're like, "Oh, there she goes again." But when when they come back to visit, first of all, they're excited because
Yeah,
it's an amazing organization, and what they provide for these young people is amazing, and the opportunities that they provide for them in terms of touring. They
hmm.
get to travel. Like last year they went to New Zealand for a
Wonderful.
competition, and they're meeting people from all over the world. So they have these really great experiences. But it's kind of interesting again to track them from 8 to 18, because when they come in, they're usually so bright, their lights are so bright, and then when they hit about 11, then I can start to see a dimming,
Mm,
because now you're talking about conformity,
hmm.
you're talking about social media,
Yeah,
you're talking about the natural thing of wanting to fit in,
yeah,
um, societal normal.
yeah,
And so you start to see, at least I do,
hmm,
this struggle that
yeah.
begins to take
And they're going
place.
through, like, starting often puberty around that age too.
Oh,
So the hormones are changing. They're caring more
yeah,
about what other people are thinking about them, right?
absolutely. So I start to see a dimming.
Mm,
And there was one young lady in particular. She came in. She was 8, and you looked at her and you knew this kid's going to be a star. You knew she was going to be a performer. She just had star, to the point that one of the our guests for the gala, we had rehearsal, and I had choreographed a number that went with this group, this uh, guest group. And it was during the number, one of the guests comes over to me in the middle of the number. She goes, "That kid's gonna be a star." That's how obvious it was that this
Okay.
kid was just. But when she hit about 11, it became this envy thing.
Mm,
So she started to not volunteer for solo stuff. She was shrinking and like
mm,
shrinking. And I was like, what are you doing? What are
Mm,
you doing? And she goes, well, if I they think I show off, and they're I don't want to overshadow my
mhm, mhm,
friends.
mhm,
And I was like, oh my God, child, snap out of it. I said, you have to be who you are. Don't dim your light for anybody. But she did.
mm,
And then, I just watched all of these emotional issues
mm,
throughout her teen years. She got into college because I kept in touch with her. I really tried to keep my hand on her.
mm,
And she, like, sometimes you can't reach people and you have to
mm.
kind of
Yeah,
just go, okay, sweetheart, you know where I am.
yeah.
And that's what ended up happening. She just went through this whole thing, and she was hospitalized a lot. And
Mm.
it was just,
Must have been very difficult for you to witness that.
well, what I had to do, and that's again, going into thoughts, I had to let her go.
Mm,
I had to, I realized that she has her own journey
mm,
and her own path. And if this is the means for her to get to wherever the next step is,
yeah,
she knows I'm here.
yeah,
So just let her go,
yeah,
you know? And I think that once I did that, I was okay. I was
yeah.
okay to just be afar. I'm connected to her on social media, so I see the kinds of things she's posting. I see kind of what she's up to. Oh, maybe I think it's he. I'm sorry. He's up to, and all the changes, because these kids tell all their business in social media, so
Hmm.
you see everything.
Yeah,
And I keep, like I said, they know I'm here,
yeah.
so they know
Well, it
that I'm.
certainly is interesting times, right? Like there's so much change that young people are exposed to. And I want to, this is really synchronistic because I just wrote a post about this in one of the school communities I'm in
Mm,
about, I think it's a really profound problem. And I first was really brought to really clear awareness after reading Gay Hendricks' book called The Big Leap. And he talks about this as the upper limit problem.
mm,
And there's four different categories. I'm just remembering the one that I have as well. And one of them is, so basically it's that we have this upper thermostat that as soon as we'll pass that threshold of feeling good or having too much abundance, that we will sabotage
yeah.
that in order to not basically upset other people around us. So there's
Right.
different reasons we do it. It's complex. And one of them is the
Mm-hmm.
crime of outshining. So when we are
Yes.
shining too bright, it's very noticeable and it can cast a shadow on others, right? Who maybe
Right.
don't have the same gifts or talents. So a lot of people in
Mm-hmm.
society, especially going through educational systems, we learn to dim our light a little bit
Yeah.
to make it more comfortable for others. But it
Yeah.
actually is of disservice because it tells other people to do the same, right?
Yes.
So I feel like it's very profound. I actually experienced the upper limit yesterday because we had a show with another teacher who talks about joy and how we need to
Mm-hmm.
preserve joy
Yeah.
in our life. And then afterwards, life happens. I went upstairs and Julia's like, "You didn't use the pre-recorded link," and I said, "Well." You asked me to ask her if she was okay to live stream. So I said I didn't even look at the sheets. And she's like, wow. And then I used that as a point because I've been really feeling good. I've made like a lot of progress lately. I finished my first guidebook. I'm working on
Oh,
gotten all this inspiration.
congratulations.
Thank you. And it's all about like living in like abundancing life and
Mm-hmm.
being, this childlike state. So I noticed like my I've been feeling this welling up of joy, connecting with people and making progress. And that little comment put me in a funk the rest of the day. I'm like, whoa,
Wow.
I'm like, this is the upper limit problem. So it's really beautiful having
Wow.
this conversation because I think for especially, for us having this conversation, those listening too, we all have areas in our life where, whether it's like, we have a ceiling on how much money we'll allow flowing into our life, or we have
Yes.
a ceiling on how much joy we'll allow. And then as soon as we pass that, it's like, oh, I better do something, whether it's causing
Yeah.
an argument or even getting sick, subconsciously,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, I can't, I can't. And so I think it's a really important conversation, especially around like what you said, like maintaining and preserving this joyful
Yeah.
essence that we naturally know, but we learn to
Yes.
suppress, right?
Yeah, we do. And we don't necessarily know what gives us joy because we're not paying attention.
Mm.
And I talk about that, I'll talk about that with a client. You know, it it's it's because we tend to think joy is a new car, joy is
Mm.
a house, joy is a career bump, joy
Yeah.
is like we attach achievement to
Yeah.
joy. And joy can be when you step out your house and you see how blue the sky is,
Yeah.
and you happen for that moment in time to catch that particular color of blue,
Yeah.
the way that the light is shining on the variations that make that one color blue.
Mm.
Like, that is a moment of joy because that moment you saw it because you were paying attention, because you
Mm.
were present. And it is simple.
Yeah.
The joy, like you talked about, like woods and liking to be in nature. It, to me, that is my biggest fun, is
Yeah.
just walking through
Just being.
the woods and looking at mushrooms and hearing birds. And it's simple, it's not as complex. And I think because we have gotten so far away from
Mm.
native tradition, indigenous tradition,
Mm-hmm.
and we're chasing. It's all about chasing. It's
Mm-hmm.
never about being.
Yeah.
And some people don't even know what that is. What is it to be?
Yeah.
Because they feel like they have to do something. They have to be doing something. That's being. And
Yeah.
being able to just breathe and feel,
Yeah. Feel.
that's joy.
Yeah.
That can be joyful right there.
Yeah.
But the thing, to get back to what you were saying in terms of the higher level and then going, is it's always expansion. It's
Yeah.
like the fact that you even recognize that that happens is huge, because perhaps, like I tell people, okay, something may disappoint you and you get a little depressed about it. But instead of being depressed about it for a month, a year, 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
maybe just a day is enough.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's enough. And
And
then
we get
maybe
better
next
at it,
time
catching it.
you get better at touching it. You get better at identifying it. And that's something to celebrate.
Totally. Well, and it brings it back to the original point you made about self-responsibility and really really being honest with ourselves about our
Yeah.
our thoughts and how they're expressing how they're making us feel. And I think that I also, my background actually is in Indigenous wellness, so I spent most of my career in helping elders, leading a seniors and Indigenous seniors program, also working in education and building programming around it. So I've been around a lot of teachings or a lot of ceremony, and that's my training, is like helping with firekeeping and sweat lodges and stuff like that,
Wow.
and being in circles is and so it really opened my eyes because I realized all of our ancestry comes from this very earth-centric
Yes.
relationships. And I think that what you talk about, the chasing of achievement, I see, like, it's like how our relationships, like, there's different levels of relationship, and one of them is when we first come into the world, we are totally reliant on our parents to take care of us, and so there's a
Yes.
total dependency. And then the relationship can soon become one of supplication, just asking your parents for things. And then if you really mature, I think, in yourself, and recognize that your parents are also individuals and they're spiritual beings, then then
Yeah.
then the relationship can come about, really about certain giving and wanting to have a deep relationship. And I think
Yes.
that's true about all relationships. And I feel like the most important one is our relationship with with our creator, and how it's expressed is through our creativity. Whatever,
Mm-hmm.
however I think we all have a unique relationship with our creator. And it goes to your point, what you were saying too, about that unique piece. It's like no one can tell you what that is, because you're a unique
Right.
child of creation. And
Yes.
you have to really tune into. I think it's difficult because, like, everywhere we go, we are there. So understanding our unique frequency and
Yes.
our presence, it's like we take it for
Yes.
granted, like.
Yes, we sure do. We sure do. But you know what's interesting? You shared that you're a writer. I urge people to just keep a journal,
Mm,
because if you really are lost, your journal will tell you
mm,
what's triggering you, what things trigger you, how you resolve certain things if you do. And it's a direct mirror where you may not be as honest with yourself, but
Hmm.
there's something about talking to a page
Yeah.
that I think, because nobody's going to look at it, that you feel like you can pour yourself into it.
Hmm.
And I think that the more we can observe our behaviors, and if that's the way to do it, sometimes that's the easier way,
Hmm.
because you've written down what's happened and then how you responded to it. You can get kind of clues to, okay, what do I need to tweak?
Hmm.
What if I try something different? Maybe I'll get different results. Because we everything is outside of us, so we think everything is outside of us. And as we talked earlier, being able to really take responsibility, and having said that, there's a school of thought that your failure, like if you
Hmm.
didn't achieve certain
Yeah.
thing, or you're trying to change a habit and you fell back into it, you
Hmm.
failed.
Hmm.
And there are some words that should come out of your vocabulary: fail, try, should. Those should come out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear you. Well, it's interesting because I mean, so many of us have been indoctrinated. We call it an education system, but the root word of education is to educe, which I think our indigenous ancestors understood this, and that's why the relationship between grandparents and children was so important. So, it sounds like you have that kind of relationship with the children that you help
Yeah.
through the schooling you do, because they can, especially the grandparents, they have this ability because they've lived, so much, and they have this life
Yeah.
experience to recognize the gifts in these little ones, so
Yes.
that and also that they get to relive through the children and have that reminiscence of like what it was like to be a child. But this idea, like we go through an education system. This is also what we talked about yesterday with the calls. Like we we learn to suppress our own physiological and self needs. Like even going to the bathroom becomes like a request to someone outside of ourselves, so we don't
True.
honor our own body needs. And so it when you say school of thought, that's literally, I think, what it is. It's like going through school. We are indoctrinated to suppress some of these basic aspects of ourselves, and we're also
Mm-hmm.
compared to our peers through grading systems, and like through this, like, chainway of like this conveyor belt of like
Right.
everyone's in the same grade of the
Conveyor
same
belts.
age, and
Yes.
it's really comes from the industrial age to breed a conformist,
Yes.
employee based class,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's interesting. Some years ago, I was in Japan. I was there teaching. I was a guest teacher, and I had a friend I had met from a previous trip that had been an interpreter for us on that particular job, and she and I kept in touch. And so this trip, I did, after I taught the classes, I went and stayed at her house, and her. But it's funny, when I met her, she had no children. At this point, she's got three, and she's got
Wow.
a little one, and the little one is just a terror. She's hitting her mother, she's
Oh my
screaming,
goodness.
she's just going through the whole thing. And I was sitting there appalled. I was like, oh my gosh. But what was interesting, and I can't remember if she told me this or if someone else, another Japanese person told me this, and it might have changed at that by now, because that was 20 years ago at this point. But I was told that in the Japanese culture, they allow the children to just do whatever,
Mm.
because by the time they get into school, that's the end of their freedom and they will have to conform,
Oh wow.
and it definitely gave me a different perspective, because I was like, ooh, I didn't know. And what's funny that you brought up about the grandparents, I there's a there are different divisions with this chorus, based on age, and there's the community chorus that I don't work with that often. Uh, so I'm kind of like a rock star to them, you know. So when I will like choreograph the number for them, and the conductors will teach it, and
Okay.
then they're like, okay, well when Jackie sees it, so it's like I've been built up to this Jackie, and so this was I think last year or 2 years ago. Was working with this particular group for the first time, and everybody's all excited, and they're maybe, I think they're like maybe 8 years old, I think they're 8 to 10 within that group, and so they're all excited and everything, and at one point I was explaining something, and one child raises their hand and they go, "Are you our grandma?" And I fell out laughing. I just couldn't get it together. I just laughed. So then just spun it. Grandma says, do this step. Grandma says, you're not low enough. Get lower. Grandma says. But that's how they viewed me. It was very, very funny. And I thought it was very, very sweet.
Mm.
And what was funny at the same time, so they're in front of me, but at the same time, I'm aware of the conductors to my right.
Mm.
And I can feel that they were like, oh my God, like it was a bad thing for them.
Mm.
Because they didn't know how to respond.
Mm.
They should have known I would laugh. Um, and then I think there was embarrassment.
Mm.
There were all these feelings. And then when I started laughing, they started to laugh over time. And the beauty about becoming more tuned in, because you're responsible for yourself, is you're more aware of what's going on around you,
Yeah.
because you're in your space as opposed to out of your space looking at stuff. You're observing from inside.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting place to be, like when you find yourself there, you're like, ew, this is kind of cool.
Well, when I love that. And I love how you gave them permission to laugh and to make fun of
Yeah.
this, because I feel like when we do know ourselves better and when we were truly honest and have done that inner work, then it allows more space of just acceptance of everyone else at the different points there on their journey,
Yeah.
right? And I
That's the
think,
key word.
yeah,
Acceptance.
and this society, I feel like is inherently ageist, and we haven't really resolved, right? Children, right? We are
Yeah. Oh my
well, this
gosh.
society is, I shouldn't say we are, but society is, because,
Sure.
children are not valuable up until a certain age, and then past a certain age, individuals are seen as less than optimally valuable,
Right.
but from an indigenous perspective, that medicine wheel, that journey around the medicine
Mm.
wheel, the most revered age groups are actually the youngest children and the elders. And there's a distinction between elders and seniors, because an elder can be of any age. An
Right.
elder is someone who's done their inner work, and
Mm-hmm.
they are attuned, and because the those two parts, that meet the northern doorway, is there's an understanding that all of us come from the spirit realm and return there. So when we're
Right.
closest to those, the
Right.
veils are the thinnest, and so we're able
Yes.
to express from that place that is closer to our true nature. And so
Mm.
children are, and that's why we talk a lot about how children are truly not only teachers and reflect our inner work. I think of that the little child that you're talking about going wild. Like maybe there was some
Yeah.
internal turmoil that the mom was not really allowing, because I know Japanese culture can be very suppressive of emotion.
Yes.
So the child's
Yes.
probably like, get it out, and probably
That's
trying to get
right.
out for her.
That's right. God, snap out of it. Yes. Yes. That is so funny. This same friend, her oldest boy, when he was about 8, there were some spiritual things. Actually, he was younger than that. Some spiritual things he told her that blew my mind.
Mm.
You know, I was like, yeah, you better listen to him. He still remembers. He
Yeah,
still
yeah.
remembers.
There are
Yeah.
old souls coming. I feel, especially at this time, the other, I think, significant thing about indigenous cultures from all around the world there's been prophecies of this particular time in history for since time immemorial, really, and it's seen as a time of great transformation where we all
Yes.
make we have a decision to make. Do we go
Yes.
into the light of truth, or do we go more into the diversions and darkness? You
Yes.
know, there was this interesting teaching when I was very young in school, and I, to be honest, I don't even know if it was a different timeline now with all the
Okay.
wildness.
Understood.
But
Understood.
in school, we were taught about the sun and how the sun was evolving as a star, and it could either become a red giant or a blue dwarf, depending on how it evolved. And I thought that was really interesting. And I had this dream once where I went into the sun and there was people in the sun and
Ah,
there was a whole
wow.
civilization. And I woke up from the dream. I don't really remember all the details, but I was also really deeply interested in like psychology at the time and stuff. And I remember them saying, this is scientifically shown that there's correlation between when there's more solar flares, there's more suicides on the planet. And what I and because science is so materialistic, it's just
Yeah.
assumed that the solar flares are what cause, or there's some relationship there, but it seemed like it was a one-way thing. And what I
Okay.
woke up from that dream realizing is like the level of consciousness that we embody here on the planet actually affects the sun. As
Makes
weird as that
sense.
may sound, we're
No,
interconnected, right?
it's
So if
yes.
we elevate our consciousness as a species, I feel like it's a higher
Right.
vibration, like we know everything's vibrational frequency, that we could
Yeah.
actually help the sun's evolution to become a blue star. And
Right.
that's
That,
what I came to. Yeah. So yeah.
wow, that's beautiful. I mean, the thing with energy, like people may think, well, what is my um, conscious evolution got to do with anything? The world is this, the world is that, the world is this, and understand that every bit of awareness you come to affects everything because we're all connected. We're all one frequency. We're all one energy.
Yeah.
We're all one from the, we're all
Yeah.
source
Yeah.
energy expressing on this plane. And I was talking to a friend last night because a lot of times we talk about politics and what's going on in the world. And what I have said to her repeatedly, I said, there's two things happening here. I said, there are two earths right now that are operating where we can see each other.
Mm.
I said, just as much chaos as you see, there's also awakening,
Yeah.
people waking up.
Yeah.
And I said, don't despair about what's happening.
Hmm.
I said, observe it, but don't allow it to color your day
Yeah.
because the awakening is happening as well.
Absolutely.
And that's not getting the press that the chaos is
Of
getting.
course not.
It's so just realize that this is what's taking place.
Yeah.
And I've also said to her and others that my feeling is we are at a point in the evolution of humanity where we have been stagnant consciously.
Yeah.
And these events that are taking place are spurring the growth or the chaos.
Absolutely.
And so it is purposeful, even though it seems chaotic and mean and cruel, and it is.
It's shaking up things.
It's shaking up things and it's serving a purpose.
Absolutely.
All of the players are serving a purpose.
Yes.
And we've had, at least in my lifetime, a few major things that have occurred on the world stage. And then we went back to business as usual.
Yeah.
9/11,
Yeah.
we had a real opportunity there
Yeah.
to come together globally and recognize our humanity and recognize the
Yeah.
humanity in each of us. But you had the powers that be that beat the drum of dissent.
Yeah.
Then we had the pandemic.
Yeah.
Pandemic was a brilliant time cosmically to take hands.
Oh yeah.
And the powers that be beat the drums of dissent.
Hmm.
That's not going to be able to keep going
No, I agree.
that cycle.
Well, it's kind of accelerating, right?
That's exactly
Right.
right.
Jackie, I'm just going to take a quick pause. I need to use the washroom, so I'll be right back.
Oh gosh, go!
Thanks very much for that, Jackie.
Oh, hey, one must be comfortable, you
Of
know.
course, of course. And well, this
But
is a
you,
really important conversation, you know. So much of what you said, I agree. It cannot continue to, well, I think there's going to be a breaking point for humanity. And you know, you were talking about those two planets. It's very possible that we're just going to see divergent timelines, you know, and I believe there's a call to the return to that primary timeline that is just the pulse of love, and
yeah,
we're just
yes,
recognizing that that really is the
yes,
foundation of reality. Lightheart
yes.
vision actually is founded on the principles that are described in the Christ letters. And if you're not aware of these letters, some people maybe have a hard time because the word Christ is in there. But when I'm in my early 20s, a being of light appeared to me in the forest. And I'm not religious. I'm very much of a scientific mind. I'd read a few of the books that you described, like The Power of Now, and I was looking for deeper truth. And then I, after that experience happened, it led me on a quest. Like, why did this being appear to me? Who I intuitively knew was Christ, but he was just pure light. And then I was like, I went to different churches, and it never really resonated with me. Like, this is not really my understanding, and I question everything from a scientific. Like, to me, I just care what's the truth.
Right.
And in these letters, which I found after being led to work with indigenous communities, learning more about myself, I eventually found the Christ letters. In them, he describes his awakening and how he what he truly experienced in the desert. That nothing was solid, that everything was vibrating particles, and very much what our science tells us, you know, and that his intentional thoughts actually changed the molecular structure of matter. But most importantly, he was shown that if we use our thoughts selfishly, we erect a barrier between ourselves and divine consciousness, which he was shown is the foundational reality of all of life. And that loving intelligence that he describes in so many different ways, it was very much not what his, you know, the religion of his time was talking about. They were talking
Saying
about a
yes,
God on high who, if you don't
yes,
obey, will destroy things and send you into,
yes.
you know, and even to this day, so a lot of the dogma that was put on his personality was, was based on those teachings, you know, and you know,
Right.
the early Christians had a hard time of, it was a very it was a very challenging time for them to just even, you know, practice his teachings and all that. But I'm bringing this up because, you know, like as we're talking about this choice that we have on Earth, like either the truth is that the foundation of reality is based on this loving intelligence, and to me, it's so completely obvious when you look at all of nature and how things grow and how our needs are provided. Even like my face, like I did not plan eyebrows that keep sweat out and eyelids that keep things, and you know,
Yeah,
like all the functions like of the. It's just so incredibly miraculous,
it
each of
is.
us, right?
It is.
Or
Yeah.
we can choose the diversions and the darkness and all that. We
Yes.
can focus and contemplate all the seeming chaos and give it
Yeah.
meaning that, you know, that there's this battle going on instead of just choosing
Right.
higher path, you know. So
Right.
a higher path of
That's how
just
powerful our thoughts are. That's
yes.
how powerful our thoughts are.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you want to elaborate on that? Because I know this is a big core of your teachings and what you're offering
Yeah.
people.
Well, I mean, I use my own life as an example. Like I went through, I spoke earlier about chasing things,
Hmm.
and a lot of times getting them and still being unhappy.
Mm.
You know, I wanted a Broadway show so bad. I got a Broadway show. I was unhappy during the Broadway show
Mm.
because I was always looking for the other shoe to drop. I was
Mm.
always going, oh, the show is not going to last. We don't have any people in the audience.
Mm.
We're going to be out of work. Like that's where my head was during this amazing experience. That was the bulk of my thoughts.
Mm.
And yeah, the show did close. And I look back and I look at the pictures and I remember the fun that I had, but I also remember how preoccupied I was with the negative aspect.
Mm.
And I spent a lot of my performing career in that headspace. So it was either feast or famine. It was
Mm.
either I was broke and struggling, as many of my friends were, and we would commiserate, and we spent a lot of time commiserating. And I remember I was at an audition. It was for McDonald's. It was a commercial, and it was a multi-generational commercial. So, different ages were auditioning. So I remember I was sitting in the waiting room, and there were two actors that were there before me, and they were a little older than me. So I guess at that time, they might have been in their 60s, maybe. They might have been a little older. And they were having the same conversation that I had with my friends. And
Mm.
they were probably about 30 years older than me.
Mm.
And I remembered in that moment saying, I don't want to be that.
Mm.
I don't want that to be my life, where I'm always belly aching about the plight of the
Mm.
actor, you know? But it was just a fleeting thought.
Mm.
It came and it went. I didn't give it much thought
Mm.
after that. But I remember recalling that when I was at a transitional point, and I said, wow, I already had a thought about life beyond performing.
Mm.
But when I was performing, I couldn't see myself not doing that. That was my life. That's how I identified myself. I was
Mm.
a performing artist. I was a dancer, singer, actress. This is who I am. And when I got to the point of being so miserable, and I stepped outside for a minute and started doing more teaching, and then realizing I didn't miss the rigmarole of the audition process, of always being judged, of having
Mm.
an agent look at me and go, oh, we need people that are thinner. Oh, you're not black enough. Or, oh, you're too short. Or, oh, you're too black. Like always, there's always judgment
Mm. Mm.
from somebody you could just meet in a moment.
Mm.
And I got tired of that, but I didn't realize at the time that that was some of what was happening. But the person, the being that I am, was starting to go, this ain't working for you.
Mm.
So until you get it, I guess you'll just be miserable, won't you? But so when I started to step away, and it wasn't purpose, it wasn't like I said, oh, I'm leaving the industry. I
Mm.
just said, I'm going to take whatever work comes. And it became more teaching work. And then I started traveling and touring and
Mm.
teaching in different countries. And 10 years went by. And I was like, wow, I guess I don't miss that thing I was doing. But that's when I began to realize, okay, your thinking has a lot to do with what's happening in your life.
Mm.
You may not realize it, kiddo, but that's what's going on here. And I think the more that I started to look at the correlation between my thoughts and my expectations versus what was happening as a result, when I started to see the connection, that's when I began to get more oomph out of my life.
Mm. Yeah.
Because then I started to see, well, you had this attitude about this thing. What if you have this attitude?
Yeah.
And then see what happens. And then I started to become more grateful. And I'm lucky or graced to be with a partner who is a great teacher in his own right and who helped me see a lot of stuff.
Mm.
And the realization of gratitude and appreciation and how important that is in life and how that's a game changer and how it
Yeah.
really shifts. It's funny. I'm saying this and I'm going, wait a minute. What started this? He asked the question. What was the
That's
question?
okay. Well, it's circles, right? Like you were talking about how walking out, looking at the blue sky,
Yes.
appreciating beauty in nature, like being in nature, that appreciation of beauty and gratitude, I feel like is the key to everything. That's
It's the
actually
key
the
to
premise of the
everything.
book, the guidebook that I wrote. Because in writing a memoir about the birth of our daughter, Luciana, I was writing this book from two perspectives, the mother's and the father's perspective, and it's taken on another dimension as I'm finishing it up now. But in writing that, I was like, oh, there's this whole. I didn't know what it was, a system, a method, and now I'm seeing it as an operating system, and it's called the Moment Home Miracle. And home is an acronym for Heaven Omni or Heaven on Mother Earth, and it's how we if we reflect back to one another the miracles that we are, and it's through
Yes.
appreciating the beauty of our uniqueness, of our presence, but also all around us, like it's so present in nature. Then we start
Yes.
we start realizing like, oh, we start remembering and awakening to the fact that life is just this series of miracles that we've just normalized,
Yes.
and it's like
Yes.
returning to that appreciation of the miracle, right?
Yes.
I mean,
It
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
It's I think what ends up happening is you start to kind of become a truer version of yourself
Hmm.
in the sense that you become more childlike.
Yeah.
When you look at how young children are in awe of everything, everything is exciting. The first snow, the first raindrops.
Yeah.
We become really jaded as adults and we don't see that no two rainstorms are the same, no two raindrops are the same because it's an inconvenience.
Yeah.
And children, the excitement and the passion that they exhibit, whether they're angry or happy.
Well, and the fact that they allow themselves to express sadness and anger and all those things, right? Because we get to a
Yeah.
certain level, and like you were saying, maybe around 11, where we start really suppressing those natural
Yeah.
sounds that the body would want to make. Like when we're sad, just cry,
Right.
or if we're angry, like it's funny. A moment like our daughter, I feel like because she was born so presently, like when I caught her, she looked in my eyes with such presence and intensity. It was amazing. And then she looked
Ooh.
and looked, she knew exactly where Julia was in the room, looked at her right in the eyes too. And now that she's
Wow.
developing and growing, like she gets, I see her get angry and frustrated sometimes. And like one
How
day
old is she?
she is going to be 22 months on the 1st. So
Wow.
she's born on February 1st, which is
Oh, an
actually the Celtic.
Aquarian.
She's an Aquarian, yeah, and Imbolc is a Celtic festival for welcoming the light. It's when the it's and which is on
Wow.
February 1st. So it's so
Wow.
interesting, like her birth too. Like we had our friend Luma, pardon me, on the island. She was born on Vancouver Island, and she took a photo of the sunrise that day, almost the exact minute that Luciana was born. There was like this parting of the sky. It was pretty
Wow.
wild. And I'm bringing up the example of her like one day we were around the Christmas tree, we helped decorate it and stuff, and I was like stopping her from grabbing all the ornaments because we put them on, and so we had to set boundaries. We don't let her. We're not Japanese, I guess. We don't let her do everything that she wants to do. We set boundaries
Right.
with her, and she just grabbed my skin and she was like squeezing it. And I'm like, oh, are you feeling
Ooh.
angry, Luciana? And
Ooh.
she's like, yes. And I said, oh, well,
Wow.
when we feel that's okay to feel that way, but how we express it is important. We don't want to
Yes.
hurt someone else or be unkind to someone because, that's not a healthy way of dealing with the anger. And she totally comprehended what I was saying.
Of
You know,
course.
yeah, it was beautiful. And I think we all have these
Wow.
but as we get to a certain age, right, how many of us are we're suppressing that feeling of anger or sadness, and we're taking something like a pill or
Yes.
some,
Yes.
we're turning on
Yeah.
the tube, or we're
Yeah.
shopping, we're doing something to avoid those feelings, and they accumulate over time,
That's
right?
right. They
And
sure
it creates
do.
that burden.
They
So
sure do.
very
Oh, I have
important.
to make sure Julia wanted you to ask me about sound healing and all that stuff.
Yes, let's talk about that, because I mean,
Okay.
well, this is actually a perfect caveat, because I feel like those emotions, like the body, like I think of my daughter. She has such, like, you heard her laugh at the beginning of the video.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
just like this pure joyful, like, giggle, right? And I feel like when we're young, we allow ourselves to make all kinds of sounds,
Mm-hmm.
and then we get to a certain age and we stop suppressing those sounds, whether it's
Right.
crying, like sobbing, or just singing. Like, you're a singer, so like to allow yourself to be
Yeah.
exuberant in your voice. So let's talk about sound, Jackie, and why is it an important element of what you do?
I mean, sound is everywhere. Sound is
Yeah.
the universe. So I think that that's why music is so powerful. That's why people can just listen to their favorite music and feel a different way other than what they were feeling.
Mhm.
That's the power of sound.
Yeah.
When you hear an ambulance, it makes your body do this, it makes your
Mm.
body contract. And whether it's consciously or unconsciously, but there's some part of you, unless you've just totally blocked it out, that is reactive to the sound of the siren because it's an assault on your senses, on your energy. So if you are understanding, and even if you don't understand energy, even if you're not into metaphysics, you're not into this new age stuff, it's mumbo jumbo, you will be affected by sound.
For sure.
That's the power of it. And the way that I ended up doing this is because I was at a point in my life where I needed something to calm myself down
Mm.
because I was spiraling out. And it's so interesting how things go. And if you really look back at the trajectory of your life, you'll be in awe about how a thought was planted that you actually heard, or you met someone, or you overheard something that is a link to where you end up journeying. I was in India in 2008, and at that point in time, it had been 8 years since I had been out of the showbiz industry. And I had been traveling all over the world as a guest teacher, dance teacher. And I was probably at that time, I might have had a knitting business at that time. I've had so many, like,
Like knitting, like hand knitting?
yeah, hand knitting.
Oh,
I had
okay.
a hand knitting business. And because my hands, I've always been crafty with my hands.
Okay.
So I was making something at that point in time. And so my head wasn't where it is at this point. And I was walking in the street in India. And India was hard. India was not an easy trip for me. I had was well traveled, and India was a whole nother was a whole nother experience, man. Whew, that was a tough one. But I'm walking down the street, and I call them downloads. To boom, you want a singing bowl,
Mm.
and it was like I did. You have that conversation with yourself. You're like, really? So I then set out to get a Tibetan singing bowl, and I had become friends with some of my students. They were teachers in their own right, and I had been hired to teach this particular school's teachers,
Mm.
and they were young kids. And I was out with two of them, and they took me to where I could get this bowl. And I knew nothing about singing bowls. I wished I had, because there were some antique bowls that if I had known, I would have scooped them up. But I'm going through the bowls, and I don't like anything I'm hearing. I don't know what I'm looking for. I'm just nah, not this one, not that one. So finally, after being in that spot for I don't know how long, one of my friends goes, "Here, try this one." And that's the bowl I ended up buying.
Okay.
that was the bowl I ended up buying. And I was in India for 6 weeks. So during that time, I was having my feet were in a lot of pain
Mm.
because they were just opening up to the West,
Mm.
and YouTube was becoming more prevalent, so they were seeing what was going on over here, and there was more of an exchange was beginning to take place between the cultures, and I'm I they didn't have like wooden floors to dance on. You were dancing on linoleum or marble. So my feet were killing me. Plus
Mm.
the shoes I had were too small.
Mm.
So I woke up one morning, it was 3 in the morning, and my feet were throbbing. And I knew that the singing bowls had meditative qualities and healing qualities. So I started putting that bowl, propping that thing up between my feet and playing it. And it
Mm.
was helping to calm the pain in my feet. And then
Wow.
I had like a hamstring pull. That was funny. Trying to get that bowl on my hamstring and play it. But I started to find more of the healing qualities of this
Mm.
bowl. And I started to tell them about it because they were kind of like, oh, that's just, silly. That's just silly. We don't believe in that. And I'm going, this is right in your culture. This is
Mm.
healing right
Mm.
here. And so I was like telling them how they could use the bowls. And so it was from that point that a couple of years later, when I started spiraling out, I was like, okay, girlfriend, you got to calm down. I can't take you. You're getting on my nerves. So I was trying to figure out how to calm myself.
Mm.
And I started to go back to the bowl because I hadn't touched it in a couple of years. So I pull a bowl out and I start to play it, and I found myself singing to it
Mm.
and found myself kind of trancing out, like just going into another space
Mm.
and calm, much calmer. And then I could kind of be more rational in terms of what the fears were and why am I focusing on the fears? Why am I not
Mm.
focusing on possible solutions? Why am I in this other place, but you want to be in this place? So I started to shift or pivot
Mm.
my thinking about the situation I was in at that moment, at that time. And it things started to get better, and things continued to get better, and the situation still took a while to resolve, but I wasn't eating myself up going through it. It was just, okay, you do this. I was able to see more clearly what
Mm.
steps to take and how to respond or not, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that passed and other things arose, but my approach to solutions or looking for solutions began to increase. And even I had a very difficult upbringing, very, very, good grief. My childhood was a trip. And I was still going through stuff with my dad and my stepmother. And just getting more into sound helped me get to a place of maybe not so much anger,
Mm.
beginning to be able to look at their lives more as opposed to what they did to me,
Mm.
being able to go, okay, oh, I understand. I understand. This is what daddy dealt with in his life. And this is why he was so angry. This is why he was an alcoholic. Okay, I understand. This is why he was abusive. Oh, okay, I get her now. I see why she was so mean and contentious and angry and the victim of abuse and abusive. I see.
Mm.
And it allowed me to make peace with a lot of stuff that I had been angry with for a good part of my life. So that to me, that's the avenue that sound can open for someone. And even just when I have sound baths and I see how people come into the room,
Mhm.
And I can see the tension. I can feel the tension in a person, even though they're smiling and everything. I can see it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you jacked up, okay. And at at the end of the session, I can see like
Mm,
a weight has
mm,
melted off of the people.
yeah.
Even the ones that are kind of like, I don't know about this, they were able to feel some
Hmm.
amount of relief, even with the hesitancy.
Yeah.
And I love being able to provide that service for people, because we don't realize how tense and stressed we are because it's really a part of life.
Yeah.
And until you feel what it feels like to not have that, you
Hmm.
don't know that you can touch it. And I think sound is a entryway to that if the person allows it,
Hmm.
because you have to allow it. If you are like, that doesn't work, then no, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
But I think if you go, okay, I don't know what to expect, I'm just going to see, then you can have some type of results from it.
Mhm. That's really beautiful. I mean, it really, to me, I love it. To me, sound is a pure connection, and it's a doorway to realizing like the consciousness that is all around us. Like you said, everything is
Hmm.
sound, and it really sounds like it helped awaken clarity and discernment in you, as
Oh
well as
boy.
compassion, right? Like you
Oh
started,
boy.
clarified your mind, you started seeing kind of a bigger picture. So, I mean, I
Yes.
love that you discovered. I think we all have our unique kind of entrance points that we come to, and for me,
Hmm.
sound and music definitely are very resonant. And so I really appreciate you sharing your journey and how you also use it to help others. I feel like one of the things when we talk about thoughts too is there is a subaudible quality to thoughts that is related to our throat chakra too. So when we really start listening to sound or to thoughts, it's like, oh, we're making sounds internally, and so when we are exposed to like a larger sound bath that kind of
Yes.
it can attune and bring back into the wholeness, right? Like, or even just
Hmm.
we can do that too when we make the larger like the om sound and
Yes.
really do
Yes.
the chanting or the mantras. It helps align the mind to
Yes.
just this one kind of universal sound that is
Yes.
happening all around, but are it's like I think so much in life we can just relate it back to music, right? It's like
Hmm.
most humans are probably walking around with a lot of cacophony or dissonant noise in their
Oh gosh,
minds,
yes.
right?
Yes.
And I find
Yes.
this is really it relates to language too, Jackie. Like to me, different languages. I speak French. Julia speaks Italian, and I'm
Hmm.
learning some Italian. And like Italian is known as the singing language. And
Yes.
French and Italian have the same root. They're romantic
Hmm.
languages, whereas
Hmm.
English is a Germanic language, and I find it's more the way it sounds is more it's more like percussive. It's more like da da da
Yeah.
da 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 da. But French and Italian are more like you know,
Hmm.
and I feel like there's a different consciousness you enter depending on the way that you're playing your music in life. And I mean, some
Yes.
people are, I mean, if I think of like Muhammad Ali and how he spoke, everything's like rhythmical. So
Yes.
like you can use English in different ways too, and it gives you a different kind of flow and rhythm in your life, right?
Hmm.
So I love that you use sound. I think it's so important to connect with the music, like you said, that's going on all
Yeah.
around us,
Yes.
Have you ever heard of God's chorus of crickets?
No.
Oh, you know what? I wish I could share it here. Maybe you know what? I wonder if I could. If I maybe I'll take a chance and try to do it. If
Okay.
I find it, so here, let's do it. I think it'll be a treat for everyone too. Let me see what I
Cool.
can find. Okay, so it's not a video. Let me do the screen. Okay, we're going into improv land here.
All right, here we go.
Here we go. Oh, can I? I wonder if the Okay, I know in sharing screens, sometimes it's not always allowing us to. Here, let's just look. God's chorus of crickets. So the story behind this is that it is the actual recording of of oh we're giving away for some free advertisement here. Um, so it's the recording. Can you hear it?
No.
No. Okay. Let me just share here. So I'm going to make this full screen and I'm going to go back to how do I share? This is what happens when we sometimes go on the improv is so
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
I know there's a setting here. Let me see when I share the screen. Um what? Okay, now it's not. Here, I might have to pull this up again.
This is funny though because you've reminded me that I have a recording of crickets that I haven't used yet.
Okay.
I think it was either last year or the year before. I was in Costa Rica and just was like, "Oh God, I gotta record this."
Here we go. Share sound. Now it'll work. Yeah, okay, so what it is, so you could do this, play around with your recording of the crickets. Can you hear it now?
No,
No way. Oh,
no.
that's too bad. Well, I will
I
invite
can
you.
find it though.
Yes, I will invite you to, and let me stop my share here. Uh, yeah, God's Course of Crickets is essentially there we go. So it's just a recording of crickets, and it's slowed down to what a cricket's life would be if they were a human being, is
Oh
my understanding
wow.
of it. Yeah.
Huh.
And you will hear in it, so for our listeners to go and listen to this, you will hear these beautiful symphonies, melodic harmonies overlapping one another.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it to me is this window into the fact that creation all around us is rejoicing in just its own beingness all the
Yeah.
time. There is this music that's happening throughout the cosmos, I believe, that
Hmm.
is, even like there have been some books written, I forget who wrote it, the harmony of spheres, that
Hmm.
even planets are actually evoking sound. And
Hmm.
human beings, I think from our identification with thinking, we actually remove ourselves from that harmonious symphony that's happening.
Yes, we do. Like, I always look forward to the singing of the crickets right outside my window. And like this year in particular, I started to listen to the call and response between them. And like I started to kind of time, like count. Oh, that was in 6/8. Oh, that was in 7/8. Oh, that was in 5/4. It's like very purposeful in the sense of there's a pattern. There were patterns. And just in terms of like geometry being played through sound and all that kind of stuff. When I was in New Zealand last year, one of the trips that we were taken on was to see the glowworms in this cave.
Okay.
And when the guy told us, okay, that's it, turn your phones off, stop recording, you could see, like, at first when you looked up, it just looked like lights. It just looked like these bright lights. But then I was like, oh wow. But nobody else got it. I had to enjoy it myself. I was like blown away because
Mm,
I could see shapes. It
mm,
wasn't just lights. I
mm,
saw geometric shapes
beautiful.
and like these patterns all over the roof. I was like,
Mm.
whoa.
Well, and this is what happens when we are in higher states of consciousness, right? There we
Yeah.
see things and patterns and things that those around us who are maybe more in the mental,
Yeah.
attachments or whatever, they don't recognize. And I think this is like such a powerful example of what we've been talking about all along is like through the eyes of a child, we see
Mm.
that beauty, we have an appreciation of that true
Yes.
uniqueness of every moment. We haven't like compartmentalized, oh, that's glowworms. And then we think the mind's like, oh, I
Right.
know what that is. What's the next interesting thing? It's like
Right.
the mind always like it's the ego drive that
Right.
really wants to jump into the past or jump into the future. It's never really interested. Eckhart Tolle talks about this, right? It's like
Sure
it's always
does.
trying to bypass the moment because like, oh yeah, I
Yes.
know what that is. That's a tree. Okay, that's a sunset.
Right.
Okay, and you're not really present with it, right?
Right.
And it can sound almost like whatever, who cares, you know? But this affects, I think, every one of our relationships in life. It affects everything, right?
It affects everything. Because again, it's a perspective. It's how you are training or tuning your mind to not just be this one and done kind of thing,
Hmm.
where you're looking at things in more of an awe state than, oh, I know what that is, oh, that's a such and such and such. Those are two different ways of looking at something, and one way is very closed
Hmm.
and dismissive, and another way is very expansive,
Yeah.
where you're going, wow, and what else can I see? Oh, you know, and you could be sitting right next to a person like, I don't see it.
Totally. Well, it's funny because a lot of people read like The Power of Now and they just said
Yeah,
this is just gibberish. It makes no sense.
that was my
And
stepmother.
oh yeah, there's a lot of folks out there, and I read. I'm like, how do you not understand this? This is
I
so
know,
straightforward. Like
I
this
know.
is the most basic like understanding ever. You know?
My stepmother, because I thought it would help her. I was like, oh, I'm going to give her a copy because it's going to help her get out of her funk and her negative thinking. And she's going to take more charge of her life. And, she never said anything about the book. And then one day I went, wait a minute, I got her a copy of the book. Let me find out if she read it. And so when I asked her, she was like, I couldn't get into it. And it was like, okay. And at another point in time, it would have hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
It would have made me angry. And I just went, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You
That's a
know?
mark of the spiritual maturity, right? And sometimes those seeds are just planted. Like we had one guest who I'm friends with on school. He's in the AI space, and he's interesting. He's a
Mm.
digital nomad, but I forget which influencer he said recommended that he read the book, and he did, and he had
Oh,
the experience of this. I don't understand anything, but he gave it a
yeah.
chance, and he just kept reading it, and he had this profound moment of just expansiveness in his consciousness one day. He just went to the washroom and like his whole experience of reality shifted just from contemplating that book. Even though he didn't understand it, he just read it anyway. So
Right.
I feel like, when we plant these seeds with people who, depending on where they're at on their path,
Right.
not everyone is ready to
Right.
hear some of these or wants, because I mean,
Right.
there is a discomfort when we start recognizing that there is this greater truth that maybe I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
because then you have to face this
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, there's the unknown, there's what I don't know, I don't know.
Yes.
And for a lot of human beings who want certainty as their primary, need to be met,
Right.
they don't have the it's scary, right? It's like, what do you mean?
It is.
I remember there was one kid in a philosophy class in high school, and he made this audacious thing, and it just made me cringe when he said it. He's like, well, teacher, we basically have figured out everything about life. Why are we like, and I'm like,
Ah,
because in my mind, I'm like, I barely know anything about anything, and I contemplated the cosmos
wow.
and stuff, but I feel like that is a common, people attune to the news, and the news says this is the
Mm,
world today,
mm,
and it's like, oh,
mm,
that's the
mm.
world. I know
Right.
what the world is.
I know what it is. And the thing is, when you do that, you don't leave any room for expansion.
Mhm.
And I think that another reason that people recoil is because then you have to question everything.
Yeah,
Everything. You
yeah.
start to realize that a lot of what you've taken to be true is not.
Hmm.
And sometimes that's too much for people because they feel comfortable
Yeah,
in the thing that they know, even though it's painful and not fun and not joyful. But because they know it, they would
hmm,
rather that than to venture out and maybe discover a new way of being that's
yeah,
actually really joyful. And it helps you discard a lot of stuff that doesn't work anymore
yeah,
because a lot of what you've taken to be true is what somebody else said. And they said it because somebody said that to them, not because they actually came to this conclusion on their own, but they were taught this. You're born, you live, you die. That attitude. A lot of people have that. And so there's no room for expressiveness or expansion or curiosity. we lose that as adults. We lose our curiosity.
Hmm.
And I think going back to why people can repel Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, is because it's so simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so simple. And people think things need to be difficult and
Hmm.
hard and
Hmm.
convoluted. And when they're presented with a very simple way, no, that's not, no, it can't be, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it's that mind that's always looking, it has a
Yeah.
purpose in that I mean, I look at the human civilization as a whole, and what a remarkable species it is. I feel like we're
Yes.
given a lot of beliefs about humans. Oh, like humans are destroying the planet and all stuff. But when we're in our element, like if you just look at
Hmm.
architecture and look at cities and look at the
Yes.
arts and look at technology and stuff, like we're an amazing species. Like we are so,
Yes.
but our beliefs about ourselves are very self-critical. They're very judgmental.
Yes.
Like we're still in a
And
very
archaic.
very archaic. Absolutely. I mean, and I feel like with all the emerging technologies and things we're seeing, like it's so important now that we
Hmm.
that we raise our spiritual maturity to meet those things, right? Because the tools are more powerful. So I feel like
Yes.
all these teachers that are emerging now, like the Eckhart Tolle's of the world, like the
Hmm.
Abraham Hicks and the Wayne Dyers,
Yeah.
and also, I feel for me personally, like the true teachings of Yeshua are so
Mm.
important because
Yeah.
he demonstrated, I think, the most advanced version of spiritual mastery that we have yet to see on the planet.
Yeah.
And he told us that we could do these things and greater. So what does that even
Sure.
mean for our species, right? Like if
Right.
we can, like he says in the letters, like you will be able to light Bunsen burners with your hands. You will,
Hmm.
in becoming a master, you master the elements. Like he talks about a story where he returned home after being in the desert and his mom totally dismissed him. She thought he like, he, was good. He was getting in a lot of hot water, which she was right,
Hmm.
in a lot of ways. But she found
Yeah.
him like manifesting bread out of thin air, and knowing because she
Hmm.
thought he'd become a thief because things were appearing out of in the home that weren't there before.
Hmm.
But to manifest something as complex as bread from thin
Yeah.
air because of he had such a clear communication with divine and he was
Hmm.
providing for the family. Like he wasn't doing things selfishly. He's not like, all right, I just want a private jet so I can get around this world.
Right.
He's
But
like, what does my family need? Okay, bread. Okay, let's do bread.
yeah.
And
I like that. Okay, let's do bread.
I want to taste what that bread tastes like.
Yes. But it's interesting because I think that people, all they have to do is look upon their own lives to see where those kinds of miraculous
Mhm.
synchronicities occur. Like I was
Yeah.
telling somebody last night about a commercial shoot I was on. And we were shooting in Grand Central Station. And for people that may not know what that is, it's a transportation hub. It's a very, very busy transportation hub. And there are people walking, racing through there, especially during rush hour. It's something to see. But we were shooting there, and it's the shoot was on the lower level, and there were balconies, so those were the holding areas where if you weren't being used you could sit up in these balconies. And I had been I wasn't in I guess the last few scenes, so I was sitting up in the balcony, and I had gotten ensconced in the balcony. I was talking to people I didn't know, and I was just having a good old time. And no matter whether you get on camera or not, you get paid. So I was fine sitting up in the balcony. And so the PA, which is the production assistant, PA comes up to get the next group of people. And he is literally standing in front of me. And there's the benches that I'm sitting on, and people on either side of me, and there's benches opposite me. And there was a guy sitting opposite me that I had been talking to. And so the PA is standing there. He comes up, he stands in front of me and the guy opposite me, and he starts picking people. He starts choosing people for the next scene. He chooses the people on either side of me. He chooses people down the bench on the other side, but he doesn't pick me. And the person that was opposite me was like looking at me, and then they went, because he said, it's like you disappeared.
Mm.
He says the guy was right in front of you and you weren't there. And I
Mm.
said, yeah, I didn't want to get picked.
That's
It was
awesome.
very simple. It was like,
Yeah.
I didn't want to get picked. So I took my energy and just
Mm. Mm. Mm.
made it really small. And I
Mm.
don't know if I was really conscious of it at that
Mhm.
time,
Mhm.
that that's what I was doing. Because I think there are things that you've done since you were a child
Mhm.
and you didn't know, you just did it and
Yeah.
you could do, you could just do it.
Yeah.
So I just did it.
Yeah.
So he couldn't believe it. So that's what I
Mm.
mean. You can look in your own life and see maybe things that have
Mhm.
happened, that have occurred, that you were very much in concert with.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, I mean, I feel like we all get a review at some point in our consciousness and see kind of the greater orchestration of things. And it's funny, I've
Hmm.
had similar experiences. I was learning about Fox medicine. Fox medicine is very much being able to blend into your environment. And I was practicing it one day walking, and a car didn't see me and almost hit me. So I'm like, okay, I should be pretty mindful of when I'm practicing this kind of thing, right? Yeah.
Maybe in the forest
Yeah,
next time.
exactly. Right, exactly. Well, yeah, so it's like, yeah, like I feel like we have abilities that are dormant, you know. Wayne
Hmm.
Dyer talks a lot about this too in the afternoon
Yes.
of our mind of our life, and I think our species is transitioning. I mean, some people are saying it's like 3D to 5D or whatever, but we're definitely elevating. There's an elevation of consciousness happening, and
For sure.
our abilities, recognizing what we're actually capable of,
Hmm.
is expanding, and also
Yes.
our responsibility to use it wisely also is, right? Like
Mm.
we in learning these things and how we can impact one another, it's more important than
Hmm.
ever to really choose our thoughts wisely, to
Yes.
align ourselves, whether it's through sound like you do, or in other ways, moving the body. It becomes important because it's impacting one another in ways that maybe is greater than, I feel like we have greater impacts the higher we rise in
Yeah.
consciousness, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Jackie, it's such a wonderful conversation with you. I feel like we definitely need a part two. I'd love for you to talk with Julia, because I feel like you'd have a
Okay.
uh, totally complimentary conversation. So you're welcome to come back on the show
I would
anytime.
love to.
Okay, wonderful. I'm
Yeah.
wondering, how can our audience best connect with you?
Ah, well, my website is the best. That's Jackie Bird Spiritual Wellness .com. And I spelled Jackie Jacquie Bird Chirp Chirp Spiritual Wellness. That's the best
Beautiful.
way because everything is there. My music, my books, uh, my wall hangings. There's an about me section. There's a lot of stuff. So
Wonderful.
my blog, my podcast, everything is there. So that's the
Okay,
best. I have socials: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Jackie Bird Spiritual Wellness, YouTube, Jackie
that's
Bird
wonderful.
Spiritual Wellness. Yeah.
All of that is in the show notes, I know as well. And I think it's wonderful. And it's funny, your name, Bird, when I think of the best dancers and singers, it's the birds, right? Like they're like watching them glide through
That's
and
true.
weave in and out. So I feel like our names are so like aligned. I had someone ask me once, did you change your name because you want to work with like education and parents? And I'm like, no.
Well, the thing is, Bird is courtesy of my ex-husband's name. So I had become Bird very early in life,
Okay.
and I was known that through the industry.
Mhm.
So I wasn't going to change it. I just
Yeah.
kept it, and it's kind of like it was my name anyway.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Well, everything happens in life for a greater purpose, I believe. We've talked a lot
Hmm.
about that over this. And so on that note, I would love one thing I'd like to ask our guests before we close the show is if you had a megaphone and you could talk to the whole world all at once and everyone could listen to you, what would you say?
Oh, your thoughts are your superpower. The way that you view life is your beacon.
Hmm,
Decide how you want your beacon to shine and let it shine.
I love that. That's a beautiful message. Wow. a beacon, how we shine. Wow. Yeah, it's very powerful. I'm gonna contemplate that one for a while, Jackie. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show. I really love your
Thank
presence,
you. Thank
and
you.
you're such an articulate teacher. It's really wonderful meeting you. So thank you
Oh,
so
it's been a
much.
pleasure.
Yeah, being a
Thank you.
pleasure for you too. So I'm going to invite our daughter Luciana to come and say thanks for watching to all of us.
Thanks for watching.
Button.
You say ciao ciao.
Bye.
I love you so much.